Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Mapping Music's Meaning. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoy it. First, a quick message from our sponsor. Are you tired of your boring, quiet life? Sick of everything always feeling mundane and the same? Jealous of those you see in the movies with the perfect soundtrack at all times? Hi, I'm Musica McMusicPants, a former Hollywood soundtrack specialist. For the low price of $19.99 per minute, I will follow you around and curate the exact song for what is happening in your life. Music is profoundly impactful on your boring life. Let me make it better. This music will change your life and give you a whole new perspective on it. Book me now while I'm still free at 123-456-789. Again, that is 123-456-789. Today on the show, we have your four hosts. I'm Hayden.
Majid.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Gia.
We're all students at the University of Minnesota, and we have been doing some very interesting research on music and its impact in our lives. From sports and video games to the grocery store and even torture, music has a profound influence. As well as our individual research, we have also done some hands-on research around our dynamic campus. Today, we will be discussing some of our personal research findings, as well as this concept as a whole, and how it relates to what we have heard with our own ears. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. First, we will have Majed talking about the use of music and marketing. What do you have to say about that, Majed?
Oh, actually, I was gonna say, it's really interesting that how music will drive our decision without even we realizing that, and like whether in the restaurant or in the kit or in the grocery store, usually we just do stuff without we don't know. Like many studies shows that actually if the music was beat, you will be more likely to leave the store earlier than if the music slower. Then will give you more time to buy more. And they even say to when you go to the grocery store to avoid any kind of stuff they do to make you buy more, just have like your headphone with you, don't focus on the music they put, because they use the music that will drive you to do those actions. And one of the study was from it's even like the one of the study shows like the brain will respond more to the familiar music knows, like to give more attention, like if you hear music and you know it, and like, oh yeah, I know that, and that will keep you more attention to like what's around you. And one of them was from Northern Colleague research shows also that like not only that, but if you go to like grocery store and was like, for example, like Asian grocery store, you're most likely to buy like some Asian food. Like here they give example with the wine, and when they have like a French sorry, a French music in the background, make the sugar actually to have Italian wine instead of other ones. Yeah.
So it sounds like though, but if you put in some headphones, it kind of makes everything not worth it, because if they don't force you to listen to that music, then you kind of do your own thing too. Sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what other articles shows us, like to avoid the scam they trying to do is maybe better to have your headphone and not focus with the music they're putting.
Yeah, create your own soundtrack for your life.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you also for sharing that, Majed. And I'll just jump right into my theories and evidence from what I found about my topic, which was relating music to sports anthems. So again, my thesis specifically was how do sports emotionally attach or connect a fan or an athlete to a specific song in a given environment. And just some stuff that I was able to claim based off my evidence was music does have a certain ability to engage people during a sporting event, whether they are a fan or an athlete. However, it can be very difficult to determine what a specific song is appropriate for in a given setting. So in order to determine this, I went to throughout the whole first semester all the Gopher football games, but the specific one I'll be talking about was on November 12th against Northwestern. And obviously not just at football games, but other sporting events, the main like song you'll hear throughout stadiums is the Minnesota Rouser, which is the main Minnesota fight song. And this is mainly to engage the fans, like when the players are coming out of a tunnel and the crowd is loud and they want to create an upbeat atmosphere. Or this will be played after a touchdown is scored or any offensive points are scored, as a way to celebrate the team's accomplishment. Some other music that would be played just throughout, there'd be like loud, energetic music, mainly rock, metal, like on big moments in the game, like on defense, it was a third down play or an offense converted a first down or something like that. And a way also, the music would be like provided to the audience throughout the games. Lyrics would be shown on the Jumbotron. And this would be mainly during like commercial breaks when they try to engage the crowd during like the quiet moments of the game. And a way to do this was so that they could keep them engaged and not just sitting there for 3.5 minutes with nothing to do.
So it sounds like the
And
music's kind of being used as like a way to like control almost in a way, right?
yeah, exactly. And like I said, they just don't want fans to just sit there and do nothing because those commercial breaks, especially during the colder weather games, can feel a lot longer than 3.5 minutes. So, and as I referred to earlier, the music's more upbeat, so a lot of the crowd's more like um, jumping around together, and in a way staying warm as well. So, and
I think
then
it's
just sorry, go ahead, Hayden.
I think it's interesting too because it relates to Majeds by if you're in that stadium, you don't really have a choice. Like you're going to listen to that music whether you like it or not, and it really does
Exactly.
have that huge impact on how everyone acts and like if everyone's going to be screaming or quiet or just like how Majed was saying in the grocery store that that subjugation to the music is really going to change your mood and like how you feel. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also gonna add in that like, see, that's also like rely when like we did and we like observed the store the other day. Like the quiet store was like not interesting at all. Like we just looked there and we went out right away. Like this, the music they use, that's what make you like really want to stay there or not. Like in the stadium, they have this louder music, the energetic. Same thing. Like they avoid when they like want you to, for example, fast food kitchen, they put fast the music a little bit. They want you just to eat and hurry up because they want to have another customers. It's like that's really interesting to observe because it was like I wasn't know just the music around me will make me change my how I think.
oh yeah, definitely. Like you said earlier, Majid, about like if you put in like headphones or something and like you can create your own soundtrack. Like if you tried putting in headphones at a football game or really any big sporting event venue, you could turn up your headphones as loud as you can, but because those speakers are massive and loud, you're not going to be able to block it out. So as you said, Hayden, you really have no choice but to listen to the music. And then one just quick quote that I would like to connect this to is from Steen in a textbook. He says, quote, "To connect with your audience, you must know and understand them, their cares, worries, and their psyche. Then you can consider how your music might appeal to them or help them and influence their actions. This is what psychographic profiling is all about." So as I said, especially during those TV timeouts, when there's nothing going on in the game and the music creating an energetic atmosphere, this would just be an example of example supporting this quote of understanding the scenario of what's going on in the game, understanding the crowd that's on hand, and just understanding how to provide a better atmosphere for the fans and athletes during different scenarios in a game. So, um, like I said, that's just mainly what I found throughout this experience at the football games, and I
So the
actually was intrigued by it.
music is curated for the person, not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. I think unfortunately though we do have another sponsor message. Is that right?
Yep. Quick word from our sponsor, real
Sounds good.
quick here. Do you want to feel some sort of community? Is sports a major enjoyment for you and your friends? What about music? Thankfully, a Minnesota Gopher hockey game can give you all three of these aspects into one outing. Enjoy a night at 3M Arena at Mariucci to watch the Gopher men's hockey team play the Michigan Wolverines on Friday, January 20th, 2023. Grab your friends and family to enjoy a great hockey game while listening to the school band perform the Minnesota Rouser and other tunes throughout the game. You may be asking yourself, how can I purchase some tickets? By using StubHub, you can purchase Gopher hockey tickets for an affordable price. The website and app are extremely user-friendly. All you have to do is make an account with your email address, and you are good to go. One final reminder, go the boats, sky you mine, go Gophers. Now on to Gia's topic of music and video games.
Thank you, Aaron. Do you know how much the music in your video games is truly affecting you? I bet you don't. Based on the genre of the video game, the game's setting, and more, the people behind the music know what they're doing when they choose the background music. It can even help lead players in the right direction or alter their mood. The secret was spilled by a freelance video game music composer herself. Ninichi from the UK tells us that puzzle games require music to boost concentration, and that the music may even get more intense as you beat levels on levels. You know, even Goal.com notes that the music in FIFA games has become as popular as the game itself over the last decade, the tracks reflecting real-world music trends and evolving accordingly with the culture. Isn't that interesting? You know, in reference to Final Fantasy and The Legend of Zelda, Sean Atkinson states that the music, especially with the recent success of live video game music concerts, is beloved as much as the games themselves and is rich, complex, and contributes greatly to the narrative of the games, particularly when viewed through the lens of topic theory. And he also states that the music is beloved as much as the games themselves. You know, that's just something else. Let's move on to Hayden's music and torture.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, Gia. It also sounds like the way that music is used in video games is like also kind of a way to like control people. That seems like in all of these, it's almost like music has such like a profound impact on like someone's like how they feel and what they want to do. And it is kind of crazy that it almost has you. It's almost like kind of like I would compare it to mind control in a way.
Exactly.
The way everyone's been talking.
Somehow all of our topics are connected, even though they're about completely different things. Like torture is going to connect to video games here in just a second. Just y'all wait.
Yep. So what I researched into, very similar to what everyone else did, was music and how it was used in torture. And when music is used in this way, it strips songs from its meanings, and they're no longer the same at all due to the fact of like the context that they're listened to. It's not what the artist intended when they made this song, obviously. And this, like, where you listening to it has such a crazy impact. And it also has a really big impact on the person that is listening to it. Because music, is often used as an enticement or positive factor in an environment, like we talked about with everyone else, like how in Majed, might get you to buy a wine, or with Aaron, it might make you really hyped for your team playing, even though it's cold. Or with Gia, it might be specific music for a video game that makes you feel a certain type of way or makes you want to keep playing the game. So those are all kind of like positive ways music can be used. But the scary part is that when it comes with that much control, people are going to want to exploit it. People like our own government. So they take prisoners and they subject them to this music torture where they will have them in their cell and they play a blasting song on repeat for 24 hours a day. It'll often be something that is foreign or like strange culturally to the person listening to it, and they try and find the most like obscure music to them that they could find. Um, an example of that would be some people are subjected to listening to Eminem, Slim Shady on repeat, and that type of music can be really foreign to some people and have some really explicit meanings and words, and that can really have an impact on someone. Um, as well as I have a quote here. It says, "If you play for 24 hours a day, your brain and body functions start to slide. Your train of thought slows down. Your will is broken, and that's when we come in and talk to them." So I think it's pretty crazy how strong of an impact music can have on somebody, and how in a friendly setting it's even a little diabolical, where they're like kind of playing with strings, getting you to do exactly what the person who picked out that music wanted you to do. But in this case of torture, it's very apparent what's happening, and it's being used in a very negative way, but kind of just like all around, they're all very manipulative, I think is the word I would use, because they're all um, just sort of trying to push people to do what they want through the use of music, because us as humans, we respond so positively to this music.
That's a really good point.
Actually, also I was gonna say, people they know what they're doing for real, because one of the researchers I go across when I was searching, it's even showed how they responded like scientifically by like mentioning, I forgot the specific parts, but like they were mentioning the specific part in the brain and how was it respond to the music, and how even different instruments can have different response in the brain. It's like something we totally have no control of. Like you just listen to something and control it. That was really kind of scary, because like, oh yeah, then the people in the marketing, the people in the other field, they all know what they're doing by just studying your mind and know how to respond.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like you said, when we went to Target, like I honestly, I mean, like I guess I assumed that they played music, but I don't think I had ever actually stopped and like thought about the music that they were playing. And when I was in there, like listening to the music, it almost became like creepy in a way, knowing that that music was there to influence me in a very specific way, and it was like picked out so people would buy more and spend more
Even if
money.
you remember, the music was slow, like wasn't speed. It was like slow music, and you will more realize that now when you go to grocery store. Like they put you slow music, then you will be relaxed, and you're not in that rush. You can take your time and buy more, spend money.
Hmm.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's what they shows in the and when I was like doing the search. But the most interesting was like is not only in theory, is like how one of the paper I read shown that like scientifically is like how each part of the brain responds. Like the I forget what they say, maybe the upper lobe or something like that was they were saying like which one exactly respond to the news. Was like wow, and even different instruments can do better. And also like building to what you said, people more rely in hearing, like even shows that like any like advertising or in the radio actually more effective than just when they tell you like a message. Like when you the screen, some people come and just tell you a message when without music in it. That's
Hmm.
not effective as much when there's a music. Or like when you see them sometimes, some ads, they in the end of the video they will start singing the name of the brand. That's like you will stick in your hand more, and you like, oh, I wasn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like stuff without music though would also be weird. Is I think is another interesting way to look at it. Like you said earlier, Majid, like when we went into that one store and they weren't playing music, it felt really weird in there. Like we were in there for like 30 seconds. It was awkward. I felt like I could hear everybody. It was like the environment just felt really stale. Or if you go to like a sports game and they don't play any music, like I just feel like the energy would just be gone. Or if there's a video game and there's no background soundtrack or none of that stuff, I feel like it would also feel really like lifeless.
Yeah,
So I
true.
think it walks a fine line of bringing life, but at the same time maybe manipulating. But like without it, it's also like weird. So you need to find like a good balance of the music I use. You think?
Yeah,
Does
that's a really good point.
anybody have any more thoughts?
I think I've wrapped up my thoughts, Aaron.
Yeah, I think I'm good too. As you said earlier, Hayden, about like, um, just going back to what you said quickly about like going into that one store we all went into. I believe that was Goldie's Locker Room in Dinkytown, where there was no music at all. And obviously, when you're not paying attention to it, it might not seem like a big deal, but um, coming in from Target and a few other places where it was like, okay, you can tell what they're trying to play and all that. Um, it just felt very eerie, knowing that you could basically hear everything. You can hear everybody moving. You can hear every little whisper. So it just felt eerie. And I feel like even just short and quiet instrumental music would just be better, like what they were having at Target, just so like there'd be some life in the store instead of like a quiet room. And I guess that's what we've been kind of saying about contextual music is just finding the appropriate place and time to include that music
Mm,
into the certain scenario.
I, I want to add, like, I think the last message I want to tell people, though, like, now we know, after we told you guys, like, just focus is, like, observe what's around you. Don't let them sell you what they want, because the tip that I heard is, like, when you go to grocery store, make sure you have your list, what you want to buy, and maybe just have headphones, as you earlier were saying, like, because when you have your headphone, then you're not forced to hear anything else, and you can make your own um like favorite songs to hear.
there you go.
Yeah. All right. On that note, this brings us to the end of our show for today. We hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have and see music in a potentially new light. As showcased throughout our show, music is practically infinitely dynamic and is ever changing. Majed showed us the intricacies of how music is used during retail shopping or in public use, followed by Aaron's analysis of music and its use in sports. And Gia's took us into the virtual world and showed us her points about music being used as background music and how it can influence what you want to keep doing in a game, or how it has even left the virtual world sometimes become more popular in its own right. And I concluded with a little bit more of the grim side and talked about music and its use in psychological torture. And to wrap it all up, we also were continuously talking about music and its use on our very own University of Minnesota campus. We hope we have potentially broadened your horizons and given you something to think about. Until next time, take care.